Thank you, Chris, and thank you, poets and players. I'd like to start with a poem called Holding On. My tiny aunt was always afraid she might be blown away. She fluttered about in the draught of her house, chasing snails that slid under the door. Each night she climbed a steepening stair to lie beneath the stars' straining light, hidden in sodium glare. Her four-room cave in the shade of passing buses where daylight goes to snooze, with two knitted dollies standing guard in a chair and a wardrobe of tiny shoes. You must have left the door ajar the night the snails brought you the light of stars on their backs, for the wind got in and swept your house and blew you clean away. This next poem is called Outer Space by the Sea. It was sort of influenced by a Kandinsky abstract. There's a word in it, Haribo, which are sweets that are luminous and jelly-like and children can't get enough of. Outer Space by the Sea. When we were very young and still deafened, the universe was a sea of motley shapes, some padded, a knitted few floating and knocking together. A solar system of Haribo planets, comets of escaped balloons, moons just big enough to throw, and asteroids like the socks you never got at Christmas. Astronauts came back smelling of caramel, strawberry, banana, or marshmallow which lingered for weeks on their clothes. It was cold in those days, no sun, just a light left on all night so the comets could see where they were going. In the dark, the sharp ones would lean in to wake me. I'd listen to their lapping, maybe reach out to squeeze one in my hand, but only felt the gentle ease of blue made for paddling or hanging over fields. Some said the universe just existed in our heads, like concussion from the door that slammed on the Big Bang. But last night I heard the final party in my sleep, a signal, shrill and strawberry-coloured and just a little sad. The shuffling of a dawn, some graceful arcs and rational realignments round a bright yellow ball appointed to stand still. Edith and Moonflight, a short exposure. Edith in the garden wears the time-lapse veil of a moth in flight. She's as bright as a cooling pond at dusk. The moth spied Edith coming down from the grove with the light of one who's seen where the sun goes when it leaves the hill. And here's a photo. A single breath in Edith's life when a moth came to dance round her face before the night could claim it. Quite a number of years ago, I used to spend a lot of weekends driving over the Yorkshire moors in the middle of the night, like you do. And one night, all the lights on the car went out completely, so rather romantically and dangerously, I drove by moonlight in the dark. And this is a poem that came from that experience. It's called One Place Twice. Oh, I've made this trip before, the long drop off the moor, and for 3 red evenings past the sun lying tired and skinned in the grass. Turn off the headlights and coast in quiet down the road to a house that the waves can't quite reach. To you in the light that the sun left behind 20 quick years ago. Listen. Is that the sand at the door? Or something you once told me that's scratching at my ear? Inside me every night, I can stretch from harbour to heart, fingertip the cross whalebones and be with you at the same time. This is called A Boxer of Quirinal. which was inspired by a statue, a bronze statue in Rome, in a museum in Rome. Sometimes, in a deep sleep, I draw you from the ground and shoulder you over the fields. It is night, and the latch on the barn is quiet. We sit in straw chairs, and you lean forward just like a fighter between rounds. Bandaged fists, the free thumb, the sun coming up on your sightless face. And I see now how they made you. An assemblage of castings and seams, fused and rubbed down. The copper in the bronze has congealed beneath your swollen cheek, reddened lips, nipples and wombs. The pale areas where you've been touched throughout the years, the thighs, the broken nose, the middle toes of each foot, the sex. All the miles of moraine you've traveled, tunneling under our lives. I think of the void you make in the soil beneath the shell of your chest. And still rolling in a substrate somewhere, your eyes, lunar marble or alabaster balls, the hooks inside your head where they hung. In this deep sleep, my childhood fist still misses your face and breaks a window, and your tight grip still quiets the cut that gapes like a bite in my hand. And when the hurt is knitted, the long, long itch pushes out a glass thorn, which feels like the cusp of a sneeze as it leaves me to wake in the space you left behind. So putting these poems together, I realized I had quite a few poems about horses, which I like horses, but I can take them or leave them, really. But here's two horse poems. This is the first one, called A Horse Dozes. A horse dozes by the cottage, his rump to the door. There's weeping inside, and half-eaten suppers of butter and spuds, and their skins, soaked in milk, still wait for the dog. A squall has left the island darkened. A ferry comes in sideways across the sound, where a fisherman in his tarry boat is hauling empty water. The ferry and the sorrow come together on the shore. A wooden box in the hold has the cried name on the lid. The road, silky from the harbour up to one big star, nudges the garden gate. The horse leans forward, his sleep replaced by grasses rustling, moon on his face. Second horse poem is called The Grandstand at Richmond. This is Richmond in Yorkshire. We brought an apple up the hill with us, hoping for horses, my girls and me. Found a ruin and a dash of the old track, pressed in the ground the way a picnic prints the grass. A crushed smell of moor crept down to our cottage in the night, and what sounded like a horse, but it could have been a deer, knocking on the timber deck outside. I slept with galloping for walls, apples shaken from the tree. Morning was in the gorse and running through me in apricot light behind closed eyes. Quite often round Chester, where I'm from, you see swans building a nest, and they almost invariably build a nest in very precarious places, which is always worrying, and they quite often use things like crisp packets and things, and bottles. And I've realized there's three poems here which are about vulnerable things in vulnerable places. This first one is called Seeing the Swan. Amazed afresh each time you uncoil to the swing of the gate, the paw of your neck, the songs you mouth me in your near sleep. Songs made from the smell of water outside and clouds bearing down like hulls. Afraid for you, I'll come back tomorrow, gentle lamp, moored in the sharp new flower that you made. Most hidden of all. Mouth its name, and a mountain away, the ptarmigan drops its head and spreads a white-gloved wing. Shed the hide, and lie belly down on the moor, and you'll only catch grass full of shivers and long-held breath. Find a warm cup on the snow's edge, where the bird turned white and disappeared, snowshoed, hardy, the lightest tread. Day on days, winter on year, creep back home when you've outstared the sun, frost round your heart, the bird in your eye flickers on your lid as you sleep. And the last of those three is called The Last Snowball. The women of the village who fear for the snow lie awake all winter listening to the distance thaw. The night is a dark and dappled hill that comes to the window warming in the moon, till the men who've been sent to scour for snow come down in the dawn with a weight, nestled in a sack like the heart of the very last hare. The village is a ring of twisted shawls as the men hold up the ball and the women peel it from their hands. Mouths agape as though they might eat it, inhale winter's ache and pray to be snowbound again, ravished into corners by its drifts. And finally, this is a poem called Rose Mining, which sounds pretty strange, but is actually based on a true place and true events. Rose mining. Gardens are short-lived in the chill of Flin Flon, Manitoba. But at dusk, each husband comes up from the ground with an armful of roses, mined in the chambers that copper and zinc left behind. They used to come back blackened. Now they're flushed with rouge bouquets, dusted with pollen, brush petals and scents from their clothes. Peer down this mine and smell the flowers a quarter-mile deep, a huge rose bowl that the sun and the bees know nothing about. Keep the shaft door closed, so the buds don't crave the sky, and the gladdened wives don't bloom before it's evening. Thank you.